Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington, where you will hear from the movers, shakers, and changemakers that are moving Greater Burlington forward. Here is your host, Stephen Brody.
Welcome to All Things Greater Burlington. If you are from the area, which I'm sure you are, and you might be doing a remodeling, you're wanting to spice and spruce up your house, maybe you're looking for something specific that you're looking for that would be really nice to have as an addition, and you're thinking, where should I go? Where could I find something like that? Well, you know what? We have a place in town that oftentimes fills that need, and it's called the Preservation Station here in downtown Burlington. And to learn more about it and to get more information on it, we are pleased to have Ray Delmege with us. Ray's the chairman of the Preservation Station Committee, and he's here to talk to us all things Preservation Station. Ray, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So did I say that right? Is it would you consider Preservation Station to be something like that, or what would be your best way to describe Preservation Station?
Well, I think that was a very good description of the store. We have just about anything that you might want when you're redoing your house in decoration needs.
Yeah. What's the history of Preservation Station? How long has it been around?
Well, we've been in the store that we're in now, which is at 213 Burlington here, or 213 Valley here in Burlington right now, just a little over 10 years. The organization started about 21, maybe 22 years ago, and we had a small garage that was jammed to the hilt over on intersection of Central and Osborne.
Mm-hmm.
And we needed to find bigger space, and this come along, and we've been there ever since.
What was the origins of it? Are you aware of like what got this going and how all of a sudden you just started accumulating all this stuff?
Well, actually, when the freeway, I call Highway 34 the freeway, widened and went through town, they had to demolish several older houses to make way for it. And there were some people in town at the time that didn't think all of that should go to waste. And they thought, let's try to salvage as much of that as we can and then figure out what to do with it. And things just grew from there. Now we salvage houses on a very regular basis. It's not the most glamorous work. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We have a pretty good core team that does most of the salvaging, and some of the things that most people would think should go in the dumpster, we salvage and bring to the store, and it sells in a matter of a few days or a few weeks. And
it has to be like you always hear, someone's trash is someone else's treasure.
That's exactly true, and there's nothing that brings that more to home than the things that sell out of Preservation Station.
Yeah. You probably look at some things and you figure that thing's never going to sell, and before you know it, you got somebody who's wanting it.
Yes. And as a whole, up until maybe two years ago, 3 years ago, it was always guys that went and salvaged. Well, a lot of these houses that were salvaging, people just up and left, and they left a lot of personal items, a lot of knickknacks, a lot of different things. And some of the women started going to the first couple days of salvage and going through all the stuff that they could find in the house.
Okay.
And they bring more stuff in than we would ever imagine to bring in, and it just makes what's at the store so eclectic that it's everyone wants to walk through and see what's there. It's just unbelievable.
How long have you been associated with Preservation Station?
I've been there just shy of 10 years now.
Okay.
So
Okay. So in its beginnings, you said like 20 years ago or so. Do you know, was there a focus in terms of the type of items to salvage at that point? You said the homes were being demolished and they were going to go to the landfill, and it's like, well, hang on a second. So was it just, were they looking for anything in particular of an antique variety, collectibles, or just something that would catch the eye and say, hey, let's save this?
well, all of the above, really.
Okay.
They were looking for structural architecture that had an interest to it. You know, the old craftsman made corbels, stair rails, balusters, gingerbread on the side of the house. That was a lot of what was originally sought, and it still is.
Okay.
We also like to salvage old hardwood flooring,
Okay.
or even, I guess you wouldn't call it hardwood, but the pine flooring that they used back in the early 1900s, late 1800s.
Yeah.
Was made from trees that were 200-300 years old, and it is real desirable today.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like it started like architectural.
mhm.
Is it predominantly still architectural, or has it expanded from that?
I would say it's predominantly architectural yet, but we do sell a high percentage of items that you couldn't call architectural by any means.
Sure.
So
how do you become aware of a house to then go and salvage?
well, we have a contact with the city who they will contact us and let us know that they have some houses that they're going to have to raise, that they've become.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then a lot of them, we had a lady in the store just last week questioning about whether we would like to come to a neighboring city 20 miles away and salvage an old farmhouse over there that's been sitting vacant. And she just didn't want to see the stuff that's inside of it wasted.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to work out some details on that, but hopefully that'll come to pass.
That makes a lot of sense when you say that homes that are going to be demolished, they're going to be raised. Is there such a thing that you go to estate sales or tag sales, anything like that, to find stuff?
We are strictly donations. We don't pay for anything that we sell.
Yeah.
If people want to donate it, there's one of our members is a tag sale, estate sale junkie, so to speak. And he knows a lot of the people that's putting these on, and
Yeah.
they will tell him, okay, the last day, if it hasn't sold, if you want it,
There you go.
take it. And we've taken a lot of things that way too.
Yeah. So the items are donated
Mhm.
to you, and then how do people acquire them in the store? Is that donation, or are they paying for that?
They're paying for that.
Okay.
And, we set a price based on what we think the value of it is. And when you're pricing a piece of lumber that's 100 years old, well, that's kind of a trick in itself. But
Yeah.
we use like sales from other stores or similar stores to help us out in
Yeah.
that regard. And then just our experience of what people will pay for something is kind of the way a lot of it gets priced also.
Sure.
So,
I was over recently at the Heritage Museum
mhm.
and was speaking to the folks there. Was speaking with Colton Neely, the executive director,
Mhm.
and he was sharing with me that there is a relationship with both of you.
Mhm.
Can you talk about that at all?
Um,
Because because there's a lot of historical stuff, obviously,
um,
that they will come in contact with. It's kind of similar. Folks will donate. They'll have stuff in their attic, their basement, whatever it is, their farm, their barn, and they'll go to the Heritage Museum and they'll say, "Would you like it?" I'm sure most of the time they say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're accumulating things as well. And I'm sure that there are times where they're looking at this and saying, hey, I think this would be a good fit
Mm-hmm.
to have over at Preservation Station.
Exactly. And as you know, Colton is relatively new as the executive director there, and he come in to a situation where none of these items had ever been culled or cleaned out, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he says, you just don't have a need for 24 flat irons in a museum. He says, if you got one or maybe two of a different kind, why that's fine. But, so a lot of duplicate items that they had. He asked if we would be interested in those. And I've got to admit the items that we've got from the museum have sold pretty quickly.
There you go.
They, first off, they're clean and they've been well taken care of, to where something that we dig out of the bottom of a old house in the basement is maybe a little grungy that we try to clean up, but certainly don't get as clean as what those were.
It has to help if there's a story behind it, or if at least you can say that there's a story behind it, especially, this has got to be fascinating, because if you're getting something from the museum, potentially there's a story behind that, or if it's something that you've gotten maybe from some old historic building or location, you can share that with that individual.
Yes. And that is one of the best selling points that we've got. If we know a little bit about where it come from, that just a lot of times will clinch a sale. We had 4 humongous wooden table legs, and the rumor was, now whether this is true or not, I don't really know, but the rumor was they were from the desk of the first Burlington mayor.
Really?
And I don't know where that come from.
I think where'd the desk go? It's just the legs.
Well, that's kind of that was my question. I thought, it'd been nice if we'd had the whole desk, but somebody brought in these legs, and that's what they told us about them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people had seen them, but they didn't really want them, and we hadn't really expressed that story to them. And a guy come in, and he was interested in them, and told him that story, and he just immediately said, I'll take them, and they're now as a decoration in one of the local taverns here in town.
Okay.
So
trash to treasure. You never know where it's going to end up. Wow. That is fascinating. I would imagine that you have situations where you have people that come into the store with a specific need. You may have it, you may not have it. Are you in a position at all where you can say, we don't have it, but we'll be on the lookout for it, and then we can get back in touch with you if we find it?
We do that a lot of times. And you're right, people come in. There's a gentleman in last Saturday, and he was looking for a specific design of a stair baluster. And we didn't have one to match it. We had a couple that was real close, but we've taken his name and number, and if we stumble across one before we lose his name and number, why, we'll give him a call.
Yeah.
And I say that because it might be 2 years before we stumble across one that's exactly like his, but we try to help people out in that regard. And
you were getting items recently, weren't you, from the was it the old synagogue? Was that coming down, or was that just being reconstructed? I forget.
The synagogue, it was being raised.
Yes.
And yes, and we did more there than what we do a lot of buildings that we salvage. It was more of a deconstruction program than it was just a salvage.
Okay.
And when I say that, what I mean was it was built in 1954, I believe, or 51, somewhere right in that neighborhood. And of course, the materials that they were using back then were a lot more, I shouldn't say better than what they are today, but they started out as better material than what they have to start out with today. And we took the floor out of it, salvaged 2,000 or 3,000 square foot of shiplap, which is, if you watch the shows on television today, you find out that shiplap's a real popular thing. And then we got down to the 2x12 floor joists, and they were 17 plus feet long, and they were a full 2 inches by 12 inches, which you don't find today. And I think there was 100 of those that we took out of there. And then the building itself was a clear span structure made out of glue laminated arches, very pretty and finished on the inside. And then there was 2x8 tongue and groove sheathing on top of that for the roof. And then on top of the 2x8 was an insulation board and then asphalt shingles.
Yeah.
And we salvaged all of that, and one of the local contractors donated the use of his crane to get those arches out of there. And we have those stored right now. There's 15 of them, and one of our members got a quote as to what they would cost new if you had to buy them today. And it was in the $70,000 range.
Per?
No, for
all of it.
For all of them.
Oh, wow.
And we've been trying to pass those along to somebody. We were hoping that one of the conservation areas or organizations would like them because they'd make a perfect shelter house start or an open building someplace.
So good segue, Ray. So how do you, other than, of course, being on All Things Greater Burlington, how do you let the community know what you have?
Facebook is our biggest advertiser, basically, really.
Okay.
We try to put ads on that, I'd almost say daily. For certain 2 to 3 times a week, we'll get a different ad on for different things.
So folks should like your Facebook page.
Like and follow our Facebook.
And what's the name of the Facebook page? Is it just Preservation Station?
Preservation Station IA.
Okay.
Because across the country, there's 4 preservation stations, but ours is listed Preservation Station IA.
Okay. And that's where you're updating inventory.
Very regular, yes. And one of the newest things that will be on it is these things called HON, HON, and it stands for Hens on Nest.
Okay.
They're glass candy dishes or bowls. A lady in Ankeny who has relatives that are relatives of ours here in Burlington is taking care of a house that this lady can no longer keep up and is in a nursing home, and they're getting rid of a lot of her properties. And she had a collection of 60 of those, and 20 of them went to family members, and they didn't know what to do with the rest. So this is one of those things that's definitely not an architectural piece, but we now have, I think it's 40-some hens on nests for sale in the Preservation Station. And they better come quick because they're going to go fast. We sold 5 of them the first day before we even got them out.
Yeah.
But as just an example of the different things and how they come about.
What got you interested in this, Ray? Why are you doing this?
Well, I own a house that was built in 1897 up here on Polk Street, and I've been trying to restore it and keep it as close to original as what it was, of course, with the modern conveniences. And I needed a particular piece of trim, and I stumbled into Preservation Station, and I just kind of fell in love with the place. And they asked me where I was going to put this trim, and I told them, and that immediately got us hooked up with the chairman of the home tour committee, and our house got put on the tour that year.
Okay.
And I just kind of got involved with the organization from that point on, and it keeps me occupied now for certain.
Yeah.
So,
Now, Preservation Station Committee, is that a standalone, or are you part of something else?
we're actually, to describe it the best, we're the store for the Heritage Trust.
Yeah.
The Heritage Trust is an organization that tries to preserve and restore buildings in historic Burlington.
Yes.
And that's actually our official name.
Yeah.
And what we do is, the trust does, is we give grants to homeowners and business owners that have buildings that are 50 years or older that are wanting to restore or rehab or refurbish to some degree. We issue grants, $1 for dollar, up to a $5,000 maximum.
Excellent.
And in the 20 years that we've been, we've given out $274,000 some odd dollars since then. And we're still taking grants, and
I would imagine that there is a certain criteria for a house to qualify. You said 50 years or older. Anything more specific than that?
Yes, it has to be basically on the outside of the house and visitable to the public from public areas.
Okay.
So we don't repair back porches, but we love to see the front porches restored and redone. Windows, leaded glass windows. We've helped restore several church doors here in downtown Burlington.
Mm-hmm.
Some concrete masonry work on a house down on South Main, leading up to their front porch.
Mm-hmm.
There's just been so many of them, I can't really think of.
So is that where the funds go to when folks come to Preservation Station and they buy something from the store? The funds that go that you receive goes into the trust?
Into the trust, and
Okay.
They're given out as grants to. It has to be in the Burlington city limits too.
Yeah.
With
Well, that's
one or
very
two
and
exceptions
that's
on that.
very important for folks to know, because again, here's the pass through,
Mhm.
and this is again a trash to treasure thing. And look how the proceeds of this is going to beautify Burlington.
Burlington, exactly.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you said you've done a lot of those over the years.
Mhm.
And is there a certain number of grants that you give out each year?
We budget a certain amount each year, and it's not really limited by number. It would be limited by the amount that we budget. But
Sure.
to be truthful with you, for the last 2 or 3 years, we have not given out as much money as what we had budgeted. And
Yeah.
I hope some people listening to this will realize, hey, come on down to Preservation Station and get a grant form and put it in.
Yeah, there's money out there.
Yeah.
Is there a certain time of year where the application period is open to apply for those grants, or is it year round?
It's year round. It used to be that they had to be in by a certain date twice a year, and we realized that if somebody has to wait 6 weeks to see if their grant's approved, why their project could be done by then.
Yeah.
And so basically, you submit a grant form or application today, and we'll try to look it over within a matter of days and let you know within a matter of days too whether or not it's going to be approved or not.
What's been the range of awards that you've been fortunate to give out in recent years?
Well, I can think of the smallest one was a lady asked for a grant to repaint her front porch and into the gingerbread and everything.
Yeah.
Wanted a whole $320, and I think we just granted that whole amount instead of just half of it. And
Yeah.
then there's been a lot of projects that we have a maximum of $5,000 per grant.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of those because a lot of projects are way more
Yeah.
expensive than that.
Yeah. And it's the trust, and I would imagine you have a committee somehow through the trust that then will review the grant applications and make that determination.
Exactly.
And so then how do you distribute the funds? Is it a type of thing where they have to show you receipts for work completed and you reimburse them that way?
That's yes.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll pay the contractor direct, but most of the time they'll give us receipts showing that they had paid for it.
Yeah.
Because the grants can only be used for materials or labor to install those materials.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So,
how's your house coming along? You said you got an old house. Have you been successful in getting the upgrades and stuff done?
I think so. It's coming along, and if you have a house that's 120 some years old, there's always maintenance to be done. And
yeah.
And then I have a wife that's got a very good imagination, and she comes up with projects quicker than we can both get them done. But,
yeah.
The house is very livable, very comfortable. We just finished residing it, and it's painted in 4 different colors to kind of match the Victorian period.
Yeah.
We're proud of it. So.
Well, and I'm sure I don't have to say this to you, Ray, but I would imagine that you have folks like yourself that can go out in the community and you can talk about preservation station. I'm sure, we were talking offline about the service clubs. And so I'm sure there's been opportunities for you or somebody to go there and talk about what's there, what's available, and letting people know about it.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's the service club that you just mentioned that we were talking about. That's how I became a member. I was asked to go speak and give a program one day, and
that's usually what happens.
Yeah.
You go and talk, and before you know it, you're a member.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and it was good. So
very good. So tell us again. I don't think we've touched upon this yet. What are the hours for Preservation Station for folks to go down and visit?
We're only open Saturdays from 9 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon.
That's easy to remember.
And the only exception to that is Vintage Market Days here in Burlington.
Yeah.
We will stay open until 4 o'clock just to take part in that. But it's basically every Saturday, Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving's not going to fall on a Saturday, I guess. But Christmas Day we wouldn't be open.
Yeah.
But every other Saturday, 9 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. So,
do you have any needs that folks need to know about? Do you need workers? Do you need people staffing the store? Is there anything out there that you need assistance with?
We always need volunteers. And when it comes to salvaging, we need some young, strong guys to help salvage. We were joking the other day that core group of salvage people that I was mentioning, I think the average age would be real close to 70 years old.
Oh, my.
And a lot of our wives have said, you're not going up on a roof. You're not going up any higher than 2 scaffolding sections. We've got some guidelines laid out to us. And when we were doing the temple over on Division, that roof was high enough that I wasn't allowed on it by family, and a couple other guys weren't allowed on it. And my neighbor, was, I think he's 25 or 26. He volunteered to come over and help one Sunday afternoon. And here's this kid carrying a 2x8, 24 foot long, above his head, wandering around up there on that roof, and walks over to the edge and just slides it down to somebody. And the rest of us are going, what are we going to do without him? We got to have him. And unfortunately, he moved away. But
no.
That's what we need. Is we need young, and we need people not just to volunteer their labor, but to become members and develop the passion that some of us old codgers have for this organization, and make sure it continues to go on.
So to reach out to Preservation Station, they can either reach out via the Facebook page, come to the office, or come to the store 9 to 1 on Saturday. Or is there another method? Is there a website or a phone number for folks to know?
The Heritage Trust website, and basically it's going to tell you the same thing. We do not have a store phone because we're all volunteers, and just having a phone there for 9 to 1 on Saturdays would not be that beneficial to us. We're usually so busy we wouldn't have time to answer it. But if they go to the Heritage Trust website, they'll find the contact information, or the Preservation Station IA Facebook page.
Yeah.
Those queries get answered very quickly on there. So
excellent. Well, Ray, thank you so much for coming in today and talking to us about Preservation Station. We really appreciate it, and we hope this stimulates a lot of interest, and you get those volunteers that you're looking for, those young strapping men to help you out.
Yes. Well, thanks for having me.
That's a pleasure. Well, we thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe All Things Greater Burlington. Let your friends know about it. And give us a call at the Greater Burlington Partnership if you have a business, a guest, or some entity that you would love to have us interview. Until then, we'll see you next time on All Things Greater Burlington.
Have been listening to All Things Greater Burlington with Stephen Brody. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to catch all new episodes. To learn more about All Things Greater Burlington, visit greaterburlington.com/ATGB.